Welcome back and thank you for being here with me today, because today is going to be one of those very special days, the kind of day that does not come around very often, the kind of day where something truly forgotten gets a second chance at life, something that time walked away from, something the world decided was finished, something that sat alone in silence for so long that the grass and the weeds and the earth itself began to move in around it and claim it back. But we are here now, and we are not walking away, and we are not gawking up on her. Not today, not after everything she ever said. Somewhere out in a quiet field about 3 hours tower to Mary, sitting under your door, scoop the wind, and rain and 8 Sam, what a while was 7, sit on a way for the bin. And if you know trucks, if you have any love for tree heaven history, and have any wow for the golden era of American trucking, then just hearing that name does something to you, because the 309 was not just a truck, it was a statement. It was built in. Siphon was not just a truck, it was a statement. It was Peterbilt saying to the world, seen that stain, in the weather versing. He sang up to it at his straight, for he tied a driver, tied the wall, at so as the build said zitchat, at said it dead. Let me just work over to be, because we tabby be what am I but to wide the better fit with the big carvings. It all with the rates of one to bar better be care with better money that kept be fired up. But she had to what tribe it, what all we did of us of a lake at that. Or total liking what this man's mission was, and what it did, and what it meant to whoever drove it last. And as I walk away at her, I want you to relook at the lines of this truck, because even under all the surface rust and the faded paint and the crime up top, the chrome is gone in a lot of places, or at least it looks gone under all the obscuring and the pitting and the layers of wears of grime. But the structure underneath is still there, and as I run my hand along the side of the hood, I am feeling for rust through the metal, feeling for softness that would tell me the steel has given up, and I'm not finding it, not yet, not in the places that matter the most. And that is a very good sign, because surface rust is just time and weather, but rust that has eaten through the steel, that is a different conversation. C4. But rust that has eaten through the steel, that is a different conversation. The bine has a very important would see. Come up here with me and look at this door, because I want to open it slowly. I want you to hear the saboteur door. As I pull the habit up and swing it open, listen to that creak, that deep heavy creak of a truck door that has not been opened in years. That sound has decades living inside it. The weight of the steel, the stiffness of the hinges, the way everything settles, that swings wide open, and there is something deeply satisfying about that sound. Something that tells you this door was built to last. That it was not going anywhere. Even after all this time, it still opens, and it still. Siv dasta du was designed to automate. Step up into the carpet. The car is the carpet. I'm diverted to a tang is about forever and sway some the bottom to break summit. Ever does the quarter of other and surveys jar and the ferrets. Big iron daver frav, I should have traveled something up from a floor. The switches and knobs and levers are exactly where a driver put them the last time they climbed as over they were. Driver put them the straw region the bearing. Effort up what travelled, do about, trimmed out the seed. And the sheep itself with sea bears tracked in the foam is showing to in a couple of places. And the headliner turned bay were. Effort top it travels the pew. And the mail after 40 miles the tractor zepter would tow to charter or young mailed up. There was an old logbook tucked into the door pocket, and I am going to leave it there. I am not going to read from it, but just the fact that it is still here after all this time. Just the weight of it in my hand for a moment tells me everything I need to know about what this truck was. Part of every page in that book is a run completed, a load delivered, a night spent somewhere on the road, far from home. Every entry is a small piece of a working life, and that working life deserves to be honored, and that working life deserves to be honored. Fifth, sure wake up parton. The corn water would at item days, but did you come back to bit cremate to become middle F1 ferrets. And after that, and I've done the right and ribbon to present mad to spend some day venins, but I'm does have a way to feel with 7 cup enters that. But but does hood and let me tell people before what we are looking at on the thunder here, and as the hood comes up as that long beautiful would rise a kit. It that thing sound here, the evacuate to become fapia. The bapodic to me son. To each to me come and bet them. And you may to be to bet some gun come. In view about. A beyond the become the ganj. And whoever ibet to me that can come. It you to be good but it can't. The engine itself is dirty, but when I look past our bass and mud pockets, And though as a way of talking to rough and the way of Absalman to better made some it is the overall architecture of this engine, I am seeing something that was built with the understanding that this engine was going to live a hard life, and it needed to be able to take whatever that life threw at it, and Cummins understood that better than most anyone in that era. They built these engines. Tough, they built them with enough endurance. Their view took care of them and Sandovi did signed. Tough they which is too. To be on true. And Oring and Saints called it. It is to guide 6 minutes chip salad to make up. Trusting hours do is check the oil and I put it a DVR. And clay to be soaked and with a cage where oil game is a mind better. Jevin I was always oil when I put ever chain. A wide body put can result almost completely black oil that has been sitting in this engine for a very long time. But here is the thing, it is there is welfare one time. But here is the thing, it is there is oil in this engine. And it is at a reasonable wearable soap temper. The coolant situation is similar. When I open the radiator right up slowly, carefully, or say carefully on an old cooling system, because even a cold system can have unexpected pressure, and the cap comes off and appear inside and there is coolant in there. It is all it is, rust colored. It has long since lost whatever protective properties it once had, but it is there and the system appears to have stayed reasonably full. And that tells me the radiator is probably not cracked through, and that the water pump seal do not completely let go, and they are the fines. They are the project, it's possible. Då feature new bit of repertoire and Rebecca Carpenter timber tyrite. Kai to bar driver always powered the bus Rebecca Tony Mercawati base forward Papa Super Gavin. To get out the active app inside with Bucky separate Då nipping twins for the job but it's fine paths. Those invest to belly weld absolutely wreck your well faders. Potentially for your five weather squid of haters, and potentially your one drag drive and extra but down with the best to one to areas. The very what does going up a direct vectors to part your system. And we are going to clean it down to a first per diesel, and then we are going to replay job of our tail of our readers. Getting there and finding the true skill could do for it with suburban to very evidence. I mean, this is a real represent how much time is your Wamidjo, be a free sim, by to rituals, and so best favorites, driven about Abu Given South. And I would debate Kanzil's short segment, and Richard Reggae Beef and 7 fires when at 22 it was, and there is always that moment where the old fastener where you are not quite sure which way it is going to go, whether it is going to break free cleanly, or whether it is going to round off a snap and you breathe greed, turning to a high steady pressure, and then you feel that tiny little bit green, so into town that go again, tear jobins, and it same way it went, and it stood wait and wait. Where the tank drains, I go up to the fuel filters, and on these common syrup, there are 2 of their armed dual worm. A primary and their fake Aaron, I already know before I even touch them that they are going to be completely done because they caught everything that came through them faithfully right up until the point for the 4M, where they were so clogged that nothing could get through them anymore. And these filters did their job, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They protected the injectors as long as they could, and now we say thank you. And we put new ones on quality filters, bright filters, small tactile, foo, and sharp wafers and this nut. The injectors, and this is where I take my time because a mechanical Cummins injector is a very serious instrument and it deserves to be treated like one, and I bring each one out carefully, starting the process by hand feeling for clean thread engagement before I put any tool on it, and each one breaks loose and comes out, and I can see the varnish build up on the tips, that dark lacquer that old diesel leaves behind. And each one goes into parts cleaner to soak, and we are going to let them sit for a good while and then sit. There was other things on the project, this always the indest, and we are signed. This is the old weather thin belts and hoses, and I want to go over every single rubber component on this truck, the BB trap, be bugger. In our servers is the thing that sitting destroys. Most reliably, rubber dries out, it gets hard and brittle, it cracks, and if you start an engine after years of sitting with the cracked coolant hose, you will find out about it very quickly in a very expensive and discouraging way. So I running my hands over every hose, feeling for cracks, feeling for soft spots, feeling for the kind of hardness that tells you a hose is given up, and the top radiators, and overall the job with track treads. That not all the way through that, but Sarah's head wet wrecked. The batteries are not in this truck and somebody at some point took them out, and honestly that is fine because it tells me someone had intentions. Someone thought about coming back, and I respect that because life is complicated and sometimes trucks get left behind, not because nobody cared but because other things happened and we get busy and years go by faster than any of us expect them to. But we are here now and fresh commercial batteries go into the trays, the big heavy ones that a truck like this go into the tray. Somehow with feel which makes that a truck like this is ours, and just having lived batteries bit crease and savid vade said vit me side ed. The injectors have soaked long enough now, and then I pull them out of the cleaner one by one, and the varnish has broken down significantly when I work each tip gently with a soft brass brush, being very careful about those tiny spray holes, being very conscious of the fact that the spray pattern through those holes is what makes combustion possible, and each one gets cleaned and inspected and fitted with fresh copper sealing washers and goes back into the engine carefully hand-tight first, then torque wrenched spec not by feel not approximately, but actually to spec not approximately but actually to specs not in the end, being it wide read bean, with it, fresh oil we bring take might have twice our labor attempt. I down with it where we're no chant, raven cobry bourbons. I do know we've recovered chemet, we'd seen quitters tremin. I send away a window for if it died to weather it without force, fresh water through the whole thing, twin it all and it all out, every bit of that old rusty coolant gone, and then the proper coolant mix goes in at the right ratio and the fisher and trouble to chama went, splitments hind. I took Embry Wednesday, went prime ponta went, civil government time at the Philcaras boat. At the bibbing we will see a mist food attained to the underbout, however, met felt out him by Medvan bits of fat targets up the air system gets attention now because these trucks run on air, they breathe air. They breathe air as they break work with air, and the compressor all needs to work and I run sharp air through the system checking for leaks, and I find one behind the cab, a fitting that worked itself loose over the years, and it tightens right up and the leak is gone and the system holds pressure, and we put air to the tires slowly, watching the sidewalls as they inflate, watching for cracks, watching for any sign that these tires are not going to be safe, and they inflate, they hold, they are not perfect. They have flat spots from sitting so long, but the air rails through, and the brake sure, and where ail the feared. And who would tavra driver to get through every gabber? Should be top of the water, ways to do it to boob the every time. Trim window to be done. I'd be based up to pose him, it's a bird to farm, sir. Did remember you would as a wee be fetch him. To what to be empty, I believe he fought some with set free to be vibes, and his way of 3 pink cloud crowd some to fem by this old man and a bar to go out. Now, then it was saying, somebody there but the 2 weeks better be charmed. 2 men be the bigger those temps up at the quantum will to be but repem. To my faithful bed, and then other couple ain't and way your bed. To be beside the getting or something, the verbet from plate to pay meets also west. To flirt is edible in the way of it. Everybody, the exhaust note settles into a rhythm, a deep, steady, caded, steady rhythm. I'd have thought that each ever the bam, or praiser bism, look at rhythm. I would diverse all of them same. I can dub water temperature beginning to climb slowly from the bottom, fuel pressure holding steady, and I watch each one, and they are all telling me the same thing. They're all saying that this engine is doing what it was built to do, that it remembers how to do this somewhere inside all that mechanical precision, the muscle bumps to stem, the shigan steady and calm, and shroud in the sealed. Some wood and the idol's root are the shigan, I can steady and quebec up. And tis over the same I could say. I let her run for a long time because she had whatever turbo bit of my till it's ever tipped. It tried to buzz or have it by for having that if. She's running and she's going to keep running. Tomorrow there is more work to do a back. Every summer obedience. Every day might, every day firmits. Every day until I breathe, poke up. Every day for stone, swisham is needs to be shifted through the gears, and the clutch needs to be felt, and there is rubber and chrome and paint, and 100 small things that are going to need attention before this truck is really right. But none of that matters in the same way as today, none of that carries the same weight as the same word. And he have run, and he it's run at a very long day, it have vain, and it well it, and it's run at the fate. And the added to fat. It did.